regular meeting to order. For those of you that may have thought we had a closed session, we did not. Do you want to talk about that at all? Why?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay.
No.
We didn't have one. Nothing to talk about.
Okay. I thought maybe you might want to explain why we...
Well, actually, I was going to do that when we got to the
agenda. Okay.
additions and deletions after we called the meeting in order.
All right, then. Then we will go with a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Powers?
Here.
Councilmember Singleton?
Here.
Councilmember Shelton?
Here.
Councilmember Cruz?
Here.
Mayor Payne?
Here. We're all present, and I would invite you all to join me in a moment of silent prayer followed by the flag salute, and I would ask Councilman Cruz to lead us if he's feeling up to it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you please read the video statement?
This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.saxmetrocable.tv this Friday and Saturday at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A DVD copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the record.
Okay, thank you. Agenda approval, additions, deletions.
Madam Mayor, I do have one change I'd like to recommend to the council. And by way of explanation, as I have reported to the council at previous meetings, back in June, the legislature had adopted two pieces of legislation, AB 26 and AB 27. 26 was a bill that dissolved redevelopment agencies, and 27 was a bill that gave agencies the quote-unquote voluntary ability to survive by making a payment. Both of those pieces of legislation were challenged by litigation instituted by the California Redevelopment Association and the League of California Cities toward the end of July. And that litigation was filed with the Supreme Court, and just last week on Thursday, the Supreme Court indicated that it would entertain the review of both of those pieces of legislation, that they plan to complete their review of that legislation before January 15th of 2012, which is the date that the first quote-unquote voluntary payment would be due. And in the interim, they issued a partial stay of various pieces of AB 26 and AB 27. One thing that they did not do is they did not stay that portion of AB 26 that suspends the activities of redevelopment agencies. So what that means is redevelopment agencies are still in a position where they cannot incur new debt, they cannot enter new contracts, they can continue to pay existing debt, existing obligations. The stay does relate to the balance of AB 26, which means that agencies do not need to start the dissolution process. The other part is that the stay, it does stay all of AB 27, which means that the bill that authorizes the cities to adopt an ordinance to make a voluntary payment is being held right now, that there's not any ordinances that have been adopted or that would be adopted under that bill essentially have no effect. So what that means as it relates to the items on our agenda tonight, and we do have quite a lot of redevelopment-related items on our agenda, is as follows. As it relates to the purchase and sale agreements, which are under 5B on the regular agenda of the agency, my recommendation is that those be continued off calendar. There is not the ability to enter into those purchase and sale agreements by the agency. My recommendation is that the city should conduct a second reading of ordinance 2011-12, which is under item E4 of the City Council, and this is the ordinance by which the city would agree to make the voluntary payment. Now, there's a provision in that ordinance that says that the city shall not make any payment in the event that a court either grants a stay or ultimately AB 26 or 27 are determined to be unconstitutional. So by virtue of adopting that ordinance, because of the fact that there is in fact a stay in place, we would not proceed to move ahead with the actual payment until that stay is lifted. There's also a provision in that ordinance that if there's a final determination that either of those bills are invalid, that the ordinance would become null and void and would essentially just go away as if we had not adopted it. The benefit in adopting it tonight is that when we get to the point where let's presume that the both pieces of legislation are found to be valid, we will have that bill in place, or the ordinance in place, and we will be able to immediately return to the full business of the redevelopment agency. Finally, you also have on your agency tonight a relocation plan and a replacement housing plan, and it's my recommendation that we proceed to adopt both of those plans. Neither of those plans will have any effect until such time as the agency proceeds with the purchase of the properties in the Old Town, so there's no harm in going through the adoption of those plans and having that business completed. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think in summary, the only item that I've asked to be continued off calendar is under the redevelopment agency, item 5B.
And you want 5B continued,
Well, actually just taken off calendar.
taken off?
Right.
Okay, would you read the consent calendar, please? Do you want to do the presentation first? Yep. Go back. Okay, we will now have a presentation by the city clerk's administrative assistant, Donna Settle.
Okay, tonight's presentation is on the electronic document management in the city clerk's office. One of the goals the city clerk's office wanted to accomplish was to use less paper, and by doing less paper, we also accomplished becoming more efficient to the public as well as with the departments. Before we did electronic document management, these are 3 examples of the way the city clerk's office used to conduct business. Records requests by the public and departments. It used to be when a customer would come into the city clerk's office, for example, and ask for a copy of a resolution on a particular subject matter, we would have to first locate the file folder, pull the resolution, make a copy of it, and then the customer would have to come back in and pay for that copy. City council meeting packets. Sometimes, I don't know if you ever noticed, those meeting packets can be over 300 pages. The city clerk's office would make copies for all of the departments and the 5 city council members. City clerks follow up to other departments. After every city council meeting, there's a number of resolutions and ordinances and sometimes agreements that we process. We would make hard copies for all the departments and put them in their mailboxes along with agreements. So we wanted to get from here to electronic document management. So the clerk's office wanted to first address some of the needs. We wanted to decrease hard copies. We would need the ability to view the document. We wanted to increase efficiency. We would need to locate the document quickly. And we also wanted to offer it citywide so the departments could access the documents without interrupting the city clerk's office. And we knew the software had to be user-friendly because if it wasn't easily learned, the departments would be less likely to use it. So we chose Laserfish, which is a document management software. Capturing and indexing documents. Capturing is either scanning a document or importing it from another source. And then indexing is creating categories and then fields so that we could locate the documents. The software was made available citywide, and since Laserfish is Windows-based application, the city staff was already familiar with that application. And the security, the departments are able to view, print, export, and email from Laserfish, but the clerk's office is the only one that can enter or delete the documents themselves. So this is what Laserfish looks like. Now when a public records request is made at the counter, we can actually do a search right there. I've just chosen the name Barbara Payne as an example. And on the right-hand side, let's get my mouse to work, you can see it brings up all the documents that her name is found in. I chose the resolution as an example. And on the next page, you can see it highlights her name to the right, Barbara Payne. And then it also shows you the number of pages that are in that resolution and the fields that were completed. So now if this is what the customer at the counter wanted a copy of, I could instantly print it, or I could email it to that customer with no charge. Wow. After the city council meetings, the city clerk's follow-up, we scan all of the resolutions and we email the departments and let them know the resolutions are available. We no longer make hard copies. And then as the agreements are completed, we also scan those, and again, we just send an email to the departments, and they can either choose to print or just view them. So you can see that Laserfish accomplished the goal of using less paper, but I also think it makes the city clerk's office much more efficient. I also wanted to mention the website. With the help of the IT department, you can now go online, or we have for a couple of years now, to get the agenda and the minutes, and if you click on the agenda, it links to all of the staff reports. And when it comes to the electronic city council packets, well, they're electronic now. We no longer, again, make copies for the departments, but the city council has the option as well to get either hard copies or electronically on a CD. And that's my presentation. If there are any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
No questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Next, we will go to public comment.
Do you want me to read the public comment? Please. Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the council on non-agenda items. Speakers may address council on any agenda item during consideration of the item. Speakers shall restrict their comments to issues that are within the subject jurisdiction of the City Council and limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk.
And do we have public comment?
I have Sandra Breck.
Hello, it's Sandra Brecht. I go by Sandra Marriott Brecht. Brecht is so hard for everybody to pronounce. My poor husband all these years. Anyway, I love what's been happening in Galt. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful community to live in. I love Galt. I have for many, many years. But I've heard through the Lodi newspaper last week that behind my house at 404 6th Street, where I was given wonderful plans a few years ago of a Boys and Girls Club center that was supposedly going in, I found out that it was going to be turned into a shelter of some sort. I've heard abused women's shelter, transitional housing, transient housing, women and children shelter. I've heard it by the Sandy at planning today told me that California wasn't allowed to say what a family was, so it could be, 4 women and 3 kids, or 2 men and 2 kids, or wherever they would come from. I'm just concerned that it was passed really quickly. There was no input by any of my neighbors, and they were saddened to hear about it. I wrote a few things. I didn't have much time, but I just think by allowing this transitional housing or whatever it was, that money was promised to the children of Galt. And to be lost, I think, is stealing the opportunities of our children. And it's not just a disservice to our youth, but to our entire community. I had some gang stuff sprayed on my white fence last week, which I quickly covered up. I just, let's see. Okay, I wanted to talk about redevelopment district because we're in it. And I thought that the purpose of the tax money for the redevelopment district was not only going to be going to the businesses in town, but maybe spread amongst a lot of the elderly in my neighborhood down there, people in wheelchairs that are unable to care for their homes properly, or, get the garbage out of their front yards even. It's sad. Our yard has been messed up there for a while, but we're told it has to die before the new can come, and hopefully Doug Matthews will have our house coated with the new stucco this week. So we've been spending tons of money on that house, thinking we were gonna help turn it into a nice area, just like you guys did with the business.
Ma'am, you're going to have to wrap it up.
So, am I out of my 3 minutes?
10 seconds.
There was supposed to be 5. You guys curtailed me. Well, I had tons of stuff, but I just don't want us all to be surprised at what we're going to find downtown, especially our police department. I think they're taxed already, and I think we better give off some more money for our police department if we're going to allow things in our city. And I think people better be being good neighbors and talking to people downtown about what's going on, so we all know. Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, I would invite you to give me a call. I'd like to sit down with you, and maybe the people putting in the shelter, kind of let you know, talk to them one-on-one. If you give me a call, I'll be glad to arrange that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Woody?
I'm going to start at the bottom of my list. Mine's about landscaping in the city. I was promised a year ago that our police station was going to get re-landscaped by Boyd's, because they did it wrong. It's a pig pen. So we have a real estate office in Elk Grove, and we bring people to see the industrial park, and we drive by there and show them the city hall and the police department, and they say, that is terrible. Okay, now I'm going to start on this building. On this end of this building, your maintenance crew are hackers. That's dead. The front's dead. This whole planter out here, you had thousands of dollars worth of plants 2 years ago. They're dead. Where are we going to get some more money to do all this? Where you cut through the driveway? Right there. The bushes on the front, I was standing there the other day and the lady said, I wish that you cut these bushes down because they're supposed to be 3 foot tall. And I said, I know that. I'm a landscape contractor. Those bushes by the bus stop are supposed to be 3 foot. Somebody can grab your purse and run. They're 5 and 6 foot. My dad always told me if I want something done to call him. Those bushes, take your saw, cut them off. They'll come right back in a few weeks. Even that corner, when you turn it right, you can't hardly see. And that's all security stuff, and you can't see your windows. If he was driving around that corner, he couldn't see nobody hiding. And then at the park, 2 days ago or so, I was watching the guy mow the grass. He had that thing wide open. And I stopped him and I said, you're going to get yourself killed. That machine weighs 4,000 or 5,000 pounds, and you're going full speed. The grass flying 10 feet out. It was wet grass, and if he'd have fell off of that, that mower would have run over him. And here a while back, how much time do I got? Here a while back, I already told him, I found 4 of your guys in a truck picking up trash on the street at the trash cans. How come? There should be one man in a truck taking that. Those other 3 should be trimming your bushes. This park department's got to have somebody get in there and manage it. If you, I have a lot of time. If you want some help for a month free, call me. I'll get it done.
Thanks, Woody.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Nope. Then now we will move to the consent calendar. If you'd read the items, please.
Minutes of the special and regular meeting of August 3rd, City of Galt warrant, information technology technician job description and salary range, ordinance number 2011-12 of the City Council of the City of Galt, determining to comply with a voluntary alternative redevelopment program pursuant to Part 1.9 of Division 24 of the California Health and Safety Code in order to permit the continued existence and operation of the redevelopment agency. After-school education and safety after-school program memorandum of understanding with Galt Elementary School District.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on those items? If there are not, then I would entertain a motion.
A motion to accept the minutes as they are.
We have a first and a second. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Cruz.
Aye.
Waiting for the aye. Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Payne. I did it
Howard.
backwards,
Vice Mayor
but it doesn't
Howard.
make it wrong. Just makes it different. Mayor Payne.
Shop
Are you
this
sure?
Yes.
Aye.
Left-handed and
Aye.
right-handed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead, mix it up.
All your faces were like, ooh.
motion has been approved unanimously. Scheduled matters, we don't have anything under scheduled matters. Under regular calendar, City Council, you want to read?
Strategic plan update.
Okay. And we have a PowerPoint. Familiar PowerPoint. While she's doing that, I would explain that the council have met and they set up some goals, some 3-year goals. But to get there, we've decided on some specific objectives. And we will be reporting to the public every month about some of the progress we're making. And that's what we're going to do right now. So if you could go to the first page, please. Holy mackerel.
Can I just add something?
Please do.
It's, not only the city council, with all the managers from all the departments.
That's right,
I mean,
staff. Absolutely. So the first 3-year goal is enhanced economic development. Item number 1 was actually, that's going to be, we're going to go into more detail a little bit later on that. So I'll save that as a special surprise for you. Item number 2, present to the City Council for action options to allow the redevelopment agency to proceed with activities and the expenditure of bond proceeds. Well, we've done that, but we're still kind of on hold. Item number 4, contingent upon resumption of the RDA, present to the City Council for action purchase and sale agreements for Old Town property acquisitions. Again, we're in the same holding pattern for that item. We sure would like to be able to move along, but it's kind of out of our control. So let's go to the next one. This 3-year goal is to attract, develop, and retain quality staff. We're going to look at item number 1. Contingent upon city manager approval, present to the City Council and implement the proposed job shadowing program. The program has been reviewed by the department heads and will be presented to employees by the city manager at an all-employee meeting scheduled for September. Item number 4, create a citywide training program and calendar and present to the city manager for review and funding approval for the training. Tentative schedule budget completed. The final program will be presented to employees by the city manager at an all-employee meeting scheduled for September. Next item. 3-year goal is to improve financial stability and maintenance of reserves, and all of that is work in progress, I would say. And by the way, all of these are online if you want to view any of them, even though maybe I didn't touch on them tonight. They're there for you to look at. The next 3-year goal is increased community engagement. We're going to look at item number 1, implement the TIP 411 program and electronic messaging system to notify the community regarding emergencies and events. A vendor demonstration was held on July the 13th. Did that go well?
Yes, it did.
Okay, next item. And last item. Provide services and facilities responsive to community needs. Going to take a look at item number 1. Conduct a ribbon cutting ceremony for Walker Park, and that was held on August the 6th. And I think everyone that was there enjoyed it. We were very appreciative of Public Works for all their hard work, as well as Parks and Recs, and we had a good turnout. It was very exciting. So I think we're doing pretty well, considering we just started on this, what, a month ago, 2 months ago?
A month ago.
Okay. So next item is City Attorney's Office.
Relocation plan, Old Town Properties Project.
Hey, Mayor and council members, as we discussed earlier tonight, the Galt Redevelopment Agency is proposing to acquire up to 10 parcels in the Old Town area in order to promote the economic revival of the area that has been started by the renovation of the Brewster Building, as well as the construction of Galt Place. By virtue of the acquisition of these properties, it will lead to the displacement of several businesses and several residential units. And before a redevelopment agency moves forward with a project that's going to result in the displacement of businesses and residences, there's a requirement to adopt a relocation plan. The agency adopts the plan with the consent of the City Council. So this item is on both the City Council agenda and in a few moments on the Redevelopment Agency agenda this evening. What this plan provides is it outlines the types of benefits that the displaced businesses and residents would be entitled to, the method for determining the types of benefits that would be paid to those entities, and the process for making those payments. So that plan has been prepared by a consultant to the city. The consultant is called AutoTemp, and that plan is presented for City Council consideration and adoption this evening.
And this is also online for the public, right? This
Yes,
report from AutoTemp?
Yes, this plan it is online. It was also distributed over 30 days before tonight's meeting to those businesses and residential units that are subject to displacement, so that they could review the plan as well.
Okay. Before we go any further, are there any questions from the council on this? Then, Donna, would you read the recommended action?
Adopt a resolution approving the relocation plan, prepared for the City of Galt Redevelopment Agency, May 2011.
Is there a motion or on that action?
I move to
I'll
approve.
move to adopt the relocation plan.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers,
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously. Next item, please.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a communications site license agreement with New Singular Wireless.
Mayor and council members, back in 1990, the city council entered into a lease agreement with a company at the time known as ACC McCall Cellular that allowed for the placement and operation of a cell tower at the city's wastewater treatment facility. That lease expired in August of 2010, and since that point in time, we have been negotiating with the successor entity, which is New Singular Wireless TCS, for a continuation of their use of that facility. During the time that we've been in negotiations with that company, they have in fact continued to pay the city rent under the expired lease, so they have not been receiving a free ride for the last year. What is presented for your consideration this evening is a new agreement by which the company would continue to be able to utilize this cell tower facility. The term of the license agreement is for 5 years, and the company would have the right to extend the license for 3 additional terms of 5 years, so for a total of 20 years. The prior lease agreement provided the city with an annual payment of $6,000. The new agreement would provide for an initial annual payment of $25,000, and it has a built-in escalator provision so that the $25,000 will be increased 3% every year that the license agreement is in place. It also provides that in the event that any other companies co-locate on the tower, that the city would receive 90% of any rent received by New Singular, which is a subsidiary of AT&T. So that money would flow through to the city as well. So unless there are any questions from the city council, the recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the manager to execute a communication site license agreement with New Singular Wireless TCS.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions, comments, hoorays?
Yeah. Yeah. Big bump. We like that.
No questions? I would entertain a motion on the recommended action.
I move to approve.
Thank you.
One second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers,
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Any written communications from anybody? Okay, next item, we will now adjourn to the redevelopment agency. And could we have the roll call?
Board members Powers,
Here.
Singleton,
Here.
Shelton,
Here.
Cruz,
Here.
and Payne.
Here. Public comment?
We don't have any.
We have no speaker sheets. Consent calendar, would you read that?
Minutes of the meeting of August 3rd, 2011, redevelopment agency warrants.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a first and a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Roll call vote, please.
Board members Powers,
Aye.
Singleton,
Aye.
Shelton,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
Payne.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Let's see. We are going ahead then with the next item. Okay.
Scheduled matters. Replacement housing plan, Old Town Properties project.
Okay. Mayor and council members, presented for your consideration tonight is a document called a replacement housing plan. One of the other results of the acquisition of the 10 properties in the redevelopment agency is that it will result in the loss of some affordable housing. And in particular, it will result in the loss of about 10 units. And when they take inventory of the loss of those units, they also count the number of bedrooms lost. and there's going to be 15 bedrooms lost. So whenever a redevelopment agency undertakes a project that's going to result in the loss of affordable housing, there's an obligation to replace that affordable housing within a period of 4 years. And the plan before you is the plan by which the agency would, first it is an inventory of the units that will be lost, and then it provides the method by which the agency will replace the lost units. Well, the good news that's included in this plan is because of the fact that the agency has already participated in the construction of the Galt Place project, which generated an additional 81 units, we have essentially taken care of our obligation to replace the housing that will be lost through the acquisition of the 10 properties. So what this plan tonight would do would essentially approve that some of the units from the Galt Place project would be counted as replacement for those units lost when we get to the point of acquiring the 10 properties in the Old Town area. So unless there are any questions of the council, the recommendation this evening is to adopt a resolution approving the replacement housing plan for the Old Town Properties project.
Is there any discussion, questions on this item? No? No? Okay, then I would entertain a motion on this.
I move we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Is there a second? We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Board members Powers,
Aye.
Singleton,
Aye.
Shelton,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
and Payne.
Aye, motion passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Under departmental, relocation plan, Old Town Properties project.
Okay, Mayor and council members, in case you're getting tired of listening to me, this is my last item tonight. And this is the redevelopment agency portion of the relocation plan that I discussed a few moments ago under the city council agenda. And the actions that are needed from the redevelopment agency are three. First, to adopt a resolution that approves the Old Town Properties relocation plan prepared for the City of Galt Redevelopment Agency. The second is to adopt a resolution that essentially adopts state guidelines relating to property relocation rules and regulations and make those state rules and regulations apply to our project, which is the second resolution. And the last item before you is an approval of a budget change in the amount of $225,000 from Fund 93 Redevelopment Bond Public-Private Partnerships. And this is the outside estimate of the amount of funds that would be utilized to pay relocation benefits as we move forward with the acquisition of those 10 properties.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Comments? Then, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the relocation plan as submitted.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And just to, if I could, just to clarify that the motion would include the approval of the relocation plan, the adoption of the resolution approving the adoption of the California Code of Regulations, Title 25, Division 1, Chapter 6, California Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Guidelines, has its own rules and regulations, and further approval of the budget change in the amount of $225,000 from Fund 93 Redevelopment Bonds Public-Private Partnerships.
Okay. We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Board members Powers,
Aye.
Singleton,
Aye.
Shelton,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
and Payne.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, the fun part, I think. Next item. Oh, I thought it would be fun.
Results of Buxton Company's community identification process, retail development strategy.
If I could get the PowerPoint. Thank you. I agree with the mayor. This is the fun part, if I do say so myself. In March of this year, the redevelopment agency approved a 2-year contract with the Buxton Company to identify retail gaps in the city and point out specific retailers whose client profile closely matches that of the residents in the Galt trade area. Buxton uses a wealth of available data sources to evaluate the demographics, lifestyle, attitudes, and consumer spending habits of residents in the Galt trade area. The first phase of Buxton's work is done, and staff is here with Lisa Hill from the Buxton Company to present those findings. I'm going to summarize the overall findings of the study, and then I'll turn it over to Lisa to talk about sort of the next steps and the pursuit package process, and to help answer any questions you might have. In addition to finding retailers who would be a good match for the city, Buxton also agreed to evaluate the city in terms of its potential to accommodate additional hotels and motels, and also to see how the city is faring in providing health care services in the community. I'll start tonight with the hospitality potential analysis. To complete this evaluation, Buxton reviewed the urban densities of more than 52,000 hotel locations around the U.S. and filtered out those locations that were in cities with higher average residential densities than Galt. The remaining locations were then sorted by a variety of variables, such as total population within a 5-mile and a 20-mile radius, median hotel rates, and distance to the nearest airports. They then looked for chains who had shown that they could operate at least 3 successful hotels in the U.S. that closely matched the conditions in Galt. 7 national hotel chains met that criteria, and those are listed on the slide. 5 of those chains are already located in Galt or within 10 minutes of Galt, so they are not considered good candidates for recruitment. The 2 remaining hotel chains, however, that are most likely to find Galt a good fit would be La Quinta Inn and Suites and Super 8 Motel. Next, Buxton looked at data regarding local health care information. They benchmarked that to similar sized cities within 1,000 miles, and they also benchmarked that to industry standards. In doing the analysis, Buxton identified a primary health care services area of about a 5-mile radius from the city's center point. The key finding of this report is probably of no surprise to anyone in this room. Galt has a current shortage of physician specialties in virtually all categories. The most significant expected shortages were identified for general and family medicine. As you can see, that has 3 full-time equivalent physicians that were short for what a city of our size typically has. Internal medicine, 4 1/4 full-time equivalent physicians. OBGYN, 2 1/2. Orthopedic surgery, 2 1/4. Pediatrics, 2 1/2. And psychology, 1 3/4. But as you can see, the entire right column is red, so we have shortages in all categories. The healthcare analysis also evaluated the projected need for hospital beds in Galt, concluded that Galt's unmet need will be 46 hospital beds by approximately 2013. Obviously, the healthcare analysis show that Galt can support additional medical practices and facilities. While this is important information and would be provided via our website to anyone that's interested in it, staff recommends that the immediate focus of tonight's effort be on retail recruitment. So we're not specifically recommending any action related to the healthcare analysis at this point. If you have other direction, we would certainly welcome that input in your motion. One of the key tools available to the city from Buxton is access to their proprietary online database called Scout. Scout has been populated now with City of Galt GIS data, census data, consumer information, and from hundreds of data sources to which Buxton subscribes. It allows staff the ability to perform a wide variety of queries and reports. Another key tool is the ability to use Scout to identify drive time trade areas, and those are becoming a common tool for retailers rather than the old 5-mile radius rings that they used to look at. The drive time map takes into account existing traffic counts, number of traffic signals, the terrain, and similar features that can affect your driving time. This slide shows a Scout-generated map with a 10-minute drive time trade area around Simmerhorn commercial property, or basically the Central Galt interchange. A 10-minute drive time trade area has been determined by Buxton to be about the ideal trade area for Galt. Once you get beyond 10 minutes, you're starting to encroach into the trade areas of Lodi and Elk Grove. Since they're much larger than we are, we tend to lose out in that battle. So if we stay within a 10-mile or 10-minute trade area, that has been deemed to be ideal. When recruiting retailers, it's important to show them that your trade area market has lots of residents that match their company's consumer profile. For example, if you want to open an Abercrombie & Fitch store, you're going to need a large percentage of relatively affluent young adults who are into the collegiate casual lifestyle. You probably wouldn't open that store in a rural community with a high senior population. To help in this effort, Scout provides access to a vast amount of consumer data for every household. It includes over 75,000 psychographic categories and demographic characteristics. Each household in Galt is placed into one of 60 market segments, and that creates a psychographic profile for any selected geographic area like that drive time trade area we were just looking at. This particular profile is for the Simmerhorn commercial trade area. It's kind of hard to read the slide. On the left-hand side are percentages of each segment that exists in that market. On the horizontal axis is each of the 60 different market segments, and their little codes that relate to a larger description. So it'll say A07 or B05. Buxton notes that anything over a 3% share of the trade area is considered a dominant market segment to a retailer if it matches what they are looking for. So the profile shown on this slide has 8 dominant market segments. Each of those market segments then has a brief descriptive name such as new suburbia families or urban commuter families. But then there's a wealth of information that further describes each segment. As an example, we'll take the most significant segment here, which is the second generation success. It's about 30%. Just real briefly, you can see that the description of a second generation success household is that they are typically multi-ethnic, who have achieved upper middle class status. They're primarily married couples with 3 or more children, very high home ownership rates, and most of those homes were built in the 1980s. They tend to patronize big box stores like Home Depot and Toys R Us. They like Acura Integras, Lincoln Navigators, that sort of those sort of vehicles. So it's sort of amazing the information that they can find out on your household. In addition to information on consumers, the Scout tool also identifies where dollars are being spent outside your selected trade area, which is leakage, or where money is coming in from outside your trade area, which is surplus. While this information is valuable to the city, it can be extremely valuable to local businesses in town because they can see where they may not be capturing their fair market share and then adjust accordingly. A retail sales leakage and surplus report can be run for any trade area in the city. This again is the Simmerhorn commercial site. This slide shows just the major store types. Each of them can then be further broken down into various subcategories for more detailed information. If you look at the slide on almost the far right-hand side, it shows 1.0 on the bottom horizontal axis. That's basically the index. If sales are shown below 1.0, say it's 0.3, then there is unmet demand, and only that percentage, which is about 30% of potential local sales, are occurring in the trade area. So in other words, you've got about 70% leakage in that category. If sales are above the 1.0 baseline, which we don't show any, that means the trade area is capturing local market plus attracting non-local shoppers, and that's sort of the golden egg for economic development. Galt's chronic problem of retail sales leakage is pretty well illustrated by this report, but Buxton does advise that before anybody runs out and opens a furniture store to capture the 55% of unmet demand, you do need to, it doesn't necessarily translate directly into sales opportunity. There could be other factors that explain why the leakage is occurring. There could be a strong competitor in a neighboring city that dominates the market for certain products. So retailers still need to exercise caution and use due diligence when using this information, but it does at least allow them to and help them to focus on where they might want to look at expanding their inventories. The next major work product we received from Buxton is the Consumer Propensity Report, or the CPR, that can also be run for any geographic site. the CPR basically takes all of the demographic and the lifestyle data on the trade area households and is able to determine how likely a consumer in Galt is to buy a given product or service compared to an average American consumer. This information is regularly updated, and it's provided for 32 major categories of goods and services and has about 4,800 different line items. Didn't include the whole report for you in your packets. It's rather long, so we excerpted just a small section on this slide. A propensity of 100 basically shows you the national average. So it's a Galt consumer would be just as likely as anybody else in the country to buy a certain product. If you look at the first one, where it's a 138 score, that means the consumer in Galt is 38% more likely than your average American consumer to spend $150 or more on sweats for a child under the age of 1 year. So it gets rather specific. This is the same kind of information that's used by major retailers to drive their marketing and merchandising decisions. It can also now be made available to Galt businesses so that they can better understand their consumers' buying habits. The city will be posting both the retail leakage and surplus analysis we just talked about and the CPR on the website in the next couple of weeks so that any business can go to that data and planning staff can help them. Planning staff may also be relying on the Buxton company to help us out. And we're also going to be reaching out to local business groups, commercial property owners, the realtors, commercial brokers in the next few weeks to try and set up another meeting similar to this, but to focus specifically on the use and education of these tools for the business community so we can help them better understand the tools available to them. I want to give you a quick illustration of the usefulness of these tools for a local business. If you look at this CPR information, you can see that a Galt consumer is quite a bit more likely than the average American to spend $150 or more on clothing products for a child under 1 year. That information is interesting, but it might not motivate a business entrepreneur to start selling children's clothing in Galt until he or she drills down to look at the retail leakage analysis for the various subcategories under clothing store. So these are the kind of the subcategories that are listed. If you look at the third line in the chart, you'll see children, infant clothing, and you can see that potential sales exceed actual sales in the Galt trade area market by over 90%. So that's an approximate index of 0.1. Put another way, local businesses are capturing less than 10% of the apparent market demand for the sale of children's clothing in Galt. Again, obviously these tools won't take the place of market research and creation of a good business plan, but we're hoping that it'll be a useful tool for local businesses to use. Okay, now we get to the really, really fun stuff. The main reason we hired the Buxton Company was to help the city identify what national retailers are most likely to be successful in Galt. Buxton tends to be conservative in their matching process because they want us to be successful and not chasing after pipe dreams. Therefore, they use a number of filters when processing the information. The filters include such community variables as market competition, eliminating companies that have said that they're not expanding currently. The other filter is focusing on the primary trade area boundaries. We're back to that 10-minute drive time trade area. For purposes of this report, we again centered it on the Simmerhorn commercial site. And based on this criteria, Buxton matched the consumer profile in Galt against their extensive retail client database and came up with this list of retailers who they deemed to be the best match for Galt. This is the first of 2 slides, so I'll give you a couple minutes to kind of look it over before I move on to the next one. They're in alphabetical order. We're showing no preference. As you can see, Home Depot is shown on this list. Even though there is an approved but not built Home Depot in Lodi, we still, because we kept to our 10-minute drive time trade area, it shows that we could support our own Home Depot even if the one in Lodi is built, and even despite the fact that there's one on Laguna and Elk Grove. And there's the second half of the list. You can see Walmart's at the very bottom. Obviously, they did a good job of matching because we already approved a Walmart. So we would obviously would not send to a pursuit package to Walmart, but it is interesting that it did show up. As I noted earlier, this list is intentionally conservative. These are the ones that Buxton really feels we stand a good chance of recruiting. It has some excellent retailers on the list that staff is excited about pursuing, but we also kind of wondered why certain other retailers or retail types were not showing up on this list. In addition, we kind of wanted to see what might be in that secondary market, the 10 to 20 minute drive time trade area that we might want to look at, even if it would require a more aggressive sales pitch. So we asked Buxton to relax some of their filters and see what other retailers might be close to a match with Galt's trade area, but maybe not quite there yet. We also asked them to specifically look at why there were no electronics, sporting goods, or casual dining restaurants like Applebee's or Chili's on the list in the 10-minute drive time. So the results of the secondary list were more extensive. So it does show that Galt's sort of on the verge of significant retail potential, but there are some hurdles to overcome. A couple of criteria that were used for the secondary list. First, the profile had to be somewhat close to Galt's consumer profile. If the profiles don't match, retailers really aren't interested. So on that front, we did pretty well with the number of potential matches. The main reason that they didn't seem to show up on our first list is because we didn't have enough households in the trade area to match their required prerequisite, or there was just too much competition in the secondary trade area markets if we expanded that drive time trade area. So the next couple of slides give you an idea. Generally, in the Galt trade area, we've got 9,658 households. These retailers, if you look, you can see the retailer on the left. We're an excellent consumer profile match for the first two. We're good as you go a little further down, then it goes down to fair and then stretch. Third column shows what the retailer likes to see as the average number of households in their trade area. Last column shows sort of a qualitative, we're a low match because we're 12,234 households short, is how to read that chart. This continues on.
Do council members have any questions as we're going through this? I'm sure Sandy would be able to answer them.
Well, I think what I'm seeing here is that a lot of these places won't, what they need is 30 to 35,000 people in the town. Is that correct? And we're losing a lot of money, and it's just, it's a shame. And with the Walmart litigation and not even having one kind of department store in here, I just wish we could get somebody in here. That's kind of my thought on it. I've always said we needed a Payless shoe stores, and then I think $2 million we're losing a year. Hello, so that'd be my first choice. But I think it's a lot. I think it's a great analysis.
Let me finish it up here. As I mentioned earlier, staff is going to be doing some outreach and talking to the business community so we can better explain these tools. Lisa and I will both go and do a presentation before that group. These are some of the tools that we'll be posting on the city's website to make available to the business community. Anyone that's interested in listening that wants to get on that list specifically, if they can contact the planning department with their contact information, we'd be happy to add them. And that brings us to the staff recommendation. Basically, the recommendation is to direct Buxton to work with staff on a strategy and send pursuit packages to the 2 hotels that showed up and all the retailers on the best matches list, except for Walmart, which has already been approved. And staff would probably recommend that we not include the 4 additional pizza parlors. We already have 6 in Galt. It just seems like maybe that's not the best expenditure of staff resources to pursue 4 more pizza parlors.
Probably not.
But we could certainly do that if council feels that that's a good idea.
I think we're good.
and then any other direction that you deem appropriate. At this time, if it's okay with the board, I can turn it over to Lisa, and she'll go briefly over sort of the next steps and discussing the retail pursuit process.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you for your time this evening. It's truly been an honor to work for you, and it's not over. The analysis phase of the project is really, the easiest part. Where we begin now is in the recruitment strategy and really the execution of the market strategy. It's only as good as how you utilize the tools. So we want to make sure that you're doing that efficiently and effectively. And as part of that, and I'm just going to click through all of this, we've been over this. As part of that strategy, we are doing the business forum meetings so that we can help local business owners understand how to utilize the tools. And Sandy discussed marketing and recruitment packages. Scout is also a tool for you to utilize ongoing. So it's updated every 8 weeks, and I will say that the opportunity list that you receive now, every year we update your analysis. So retailers that may not be expanding in the economic downturn, we're going to look at this next year and say, have they now made an announcement that they're going to begin a more aggressive expansion? Another thing that's kind of going on because of the economy is that retailers are looking at being more innovative. So you're going to see retailers that have restaurants inside, like Home Depot is beginning to do, Walmart's, Target's, and you're also going to see them hoping to better understand their Tier 2, Tier 3 opportunities. Part of the trend that's going on in the industry is that retailers are running out of first-tier opportunities. So that 50,000 to 100,000 community, they're there. So now they've got to look at, should we reduce our square footage requirements? Should we start looking at Tier 2, Tier 3 opportunities? And that's kind of where you are right now. So as you grow, we kind of want to move you up into those BUDS categories. But that's why we keep your information updated as the market changes and as your sort of strategy develops. So sometimes you have to crawl before you walk, if you will. But the Scout allows you to showcase the opportunity to retailers ongoing. And again, developing that market strategy and understanding that this is, marketing now is not an option, it's mandatory. You understand your retail advantages, you understand the consumers at the local level, you understand the retail potential, you're able to speak directly to retailers. We're putting you in touch with and giving contact information to every retailer that was a fit so that you can go directly to that site selection person, making a decision about your market and say, we've done our homework, we validated our market, we understand your company and the culture of your company, and we fit your current business model, and be able to give them the profile and the propensity within that market trade area. And also understanding that there's no single marketplace. So we want to market your advantages and strengths to retailers, to developers, to the brokerage community, and specifically to International Council of Shopping Centers. Now, this is a conference that occurs every year in Las Vegas. There are 2 regional conferences that are applicable to you. But these conferences are really important. During ICSC, there are thousands of retailers that attend this conference, and it's your opportunity to get in front of 30 or 40 retailers that are at this show so that you don't have to year-round constantly be getting in touch with them. And as part of our support, we have one of the largest booths at this conference. We allow you to utilize that booth. We allow you to market your community directly from our booth. And we also make personal introductions during the show because we know in the retail industry, many deals are either proposed or inked at this conference. And so we want you to be attending these deal-making events so that you can really get your story out and really get on the radar screen. So lots of support there, lots of training and getting you prepared. We want to start in February and say, here's kind of a strategy to attack this conference. And then staying current via our client e-newsletters, Scouts, the webcasts that we provide. We do 6 to 8 webcasts every year for our clients to talk about trends, to talk about new opportunities, to talk about some different things that cities are doing to create incubators, the ICSC support, client services, and then again, additional retailers and refresh information ongoing. So again, this is only the beginning. Think of this as a strategy. It's a long-term strategy. We want to get some immediate gratification for your local business owners right away, and the recruitment process is just that. It's a process. Are there any questions?
I just had a comment. I want to thank you. And when I was the vice mayor and mayor, and I think Barbara will attest to this, you've mentioned a lot of industry and commercial businesses that we felt, and not only staff and the citizens. So I appreciate your targeting or trying to bring in your recommendation is exactly what I had already written down several years ago. And I think that is enormous, and I believe we'll have more impact, I guess, when staff goes and you talk to all the various, businesses and come back to us. I think this is going to help us immensely.
Yeah, and a lot of our clients over the years have said, you guys didn't really tell us anything necessarily that we didn't already have an instinct about. Unfortunately, for us to say it without having the information to back it up was just not getting the message across. So now we can go directly to that retailer and say, what we've always felt is absolutely valid.
Here it is, right.
And here it is. Yeah. And it's third party, it's fact-based, so it keeps you out of the fluffy narrative that isn't necessarily, number-based.
Sounds like we need to go to Vegas, too.
I think we have a volunteer.
I would recommend it.
One of the things we're going to try to do initially with this information, specifically with the match list, is to work on the similar commercial property. It's something that we've been working on. We've got some studies going on right now. We're going to be scheduling a meeting with the property owner, the broker that's marketing that site, and get other retail brokers in the area to give them that list, get in the information about the site. The good thing about the list is we do have at least one anchor on there, being Home Depot, and we have other stores that would likely go with a store like that, so we have some potential there. There's also stores on that list that would go in existing retail centers, up at the Rayleigh Shopping Center, at the Save Mart Shopping Center, places like the Payless Shoes, for example. We have an old Blockbuster store, right, Mr. Gettridge? That'd be a good location for a Payless shoe store, and things like that. And so we can target both the new shopping center as well as fill in existing vacancies in some of our existing retail locations. So we'll be trying to get some of this information in the hands of individuals like Mr. Gettridge so that he can go out and help work with us to target some of those retailers and bring them into those centers.
How can some of the existing local businesses use this information? And when I say that, I'm looking at the businesses we have here specifically. We don't have a lot. So we have all this information, but who are we going to give it to?
Sure. Local businesses now will have access to the same level of detail and intelligence that our national retailers utilize to make these strategic decisions. And the way that we work with a lot of our retail, so we're best known in the site selection industry, so we make site decisions for our retail clients. But the other part of that business, and that's just as important to our business model, is the who is my customer analysis. So it's understanding that Bass Pro, it's much easier to maintain their current customer and to increase the value of that customer than it is to reach out to a non-consumer and conform them. So we do who is my customer analysis for our retail clients all the time once in place, so that they can increase the value of current consumers. So that is the value of that for your local businesses, to understand who their customer is and get out of the trial by fire goods and services and just putting it out and hoping that someone purchases. We're able to say, here's what your customer looks like. Here's the goods and services and the products that resonate with them, specifically their brand loyalties and the types of things that they purchase. Here's how they like to be messaged from a marketing standpoint, and this information is being updated ongoing. So they'll be able to utilize those tools to say, maybe instead of, I have a wine and cheese store, maybe instead of taking the selection of the wine reps, I'm going to look at the consumer propensity report and look at my resident population's propensity to drink a particular brand and have that be my window display, as opposed to, whatever the hot new, flavor of the month is. So being able to make those strategic decisions and ordering, merchandising, and also marketing.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, where are we? Ready for action? Would you read the recommended action?
1 is receive the report and provide direction to staff as appropriate. And 2, direct staff to send pursuit packages to those businesses recommended in the staff report or otherwise amended. And 3, direct staff to proceed with outreach to the local business community and education about the tools that will be made available on the city's website.
Okay, that's the recommended action. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion on that?
I'll make the motion that we approve it as accepted, as listed as 1, 2, and 3.
I'll second.
First and a second. Any comments yet? No? Okay. Then I would call for the vote. Roll call, please.
Board members Powers,
Aye.
Singleton,
Aye.
Shelton,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
and Payne.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, now we are going to adjourn from the redevelopment and reconvene to the Galt City Council. City Clerk's report.
The 2012 Independence Day Celebration Ad Hoc Committee appointments. The City Council formed an ad hoc committee for the 2012 Independence Day celebration, which shall be composed solely of 2 members of the City Council to be appointed by a majority of the City Council.
Is there any elaboration on this item?
I volunteer.
You volunteer?
I also would volunteer for that.
Okay.
I think you already appointed us last time.
Yeah,
anyway.
last time, yeah.
Is that the recommended action?
Kind of informally, I think.
Yeah,
We
really.
report you? Okay. I would also stress that, yes, we have 2 city council members on this committee, but I'm sure it's their intention to bring in a lot of the citizens to work with them.
It is.
I don't think they want to try to tackle this on their own. So having said that, we have 2 volunteers. Is it the consensus of the council to do we
I recommend we just entertain a motion, Mayor, to appoint
do a motion?
the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Singleton.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I motion we nominate Vice Mayor Powers and Councilman Singleton for the ad hoc committee.
Okay. We have a
Second that.
first and a second. Any other discussion? Then I'd call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Powers,
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
and Mayor Payne.
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously. Next item, please.
Galt Youth Committee appointment. The Galt Youth Committee adopted an ordinance which states that 1 council member is appointed to the committee as a voting member of the committee.
And in the spirit of what's going on, I would volunteer for that.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, I've been working with them for 6 years. I'm in the middle of a big Halloween party planning.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd really like to have a vote.
I think that's why we were looking at you,
Yeah.
Mayor.
So
I move to, I nominate Ms. Barbara Payne, Mayor Barbara Payne,
Second.
to the Galt Youth Committee.
gosh, I like the idea of being nominated to a youth committee. Does that make me younger?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Was there a second there? Okay.
Yeah, Mark seconded. Yeah.
Then I'd call for the vote.
Vice Mayor Powers,
Aye.
Councilmember Singleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Cruz,
Aye.
Mayor Payne.
Aye. Motion is passed unanimously. We were ready to go to comments by staff. Does staff have any comments?
We have none.
Chief? Everybody? Gosh. Okay. Then we'll go to comments by city council members, and I would start with Councilman Shelton.
No.
Yes?
No,
No?
don't have any
No?
comments.
Okay.
I figure we're on a roll here.
And-
But there's 4 more of them.
Councilman Cruz?
Other than I enjoyed Herald Days immensely, and somewhere down the line we should use that general idea they had for our upcoming events, because they had a really great turnout out there.
Okay. Okay, Vice Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to reiterate something. I guess they extended the application for a second vice president to the League of California Cities. I just happened to have the form, and it was with great pleasure. I'd like to pass this down to Councilmember Cruz.
Everybody get in on me.
Very
Okay.
good.
All right.
I think you'd be a great representative. I really hope you consider it seriously.
That is already filled out, he just needs to sign it, right?
Right,
Well,
yeah.
he's got to do it. I'll help him with anything he needs.
And I think, is it the mayor or someone from Lodi is first vice president, so Galt needs to be at least second.
And the Eastern one's from the north, so that would be us.
I don't know, I'm for the south.
I know you are.
Come on, Mark, get her done.
Okay. Was there more that you wanted?
Well, you know, since I was on vacation last week.
I don't want to hear that.
I,
Mexico.
I don't have anything
Okay,
bad.
your turn.
I'm sorry, I have nothing.
You have nothing?
Yeah.
One of the things I sadly want to talk about, because we are such a close community, is the celebration and passing of Taylor Steele, one of our high school students. There's a tremendous turnout. There's a terrific story about this teenager who passed away with cancer. All the time, she fought the disease. She stayed part of the soccer team. Even when she was on chemo, she competed, and into the very last minute, she continued to live. Which I don't know if it's that much consolation knowing that she's gone, but I know we all feel a terrible sadness of her passing. On the other hand, I wanted to say that I had some really good feelings this past weekend about our community. I think it's what makes Galt a special community. I attended the soccer fest at McCaffrey Middle School, and it's all about volunteers, parents volunteering to do all the work, and there were a lot of kids out there. They tried to set me up to be the goalie, and I told them I don't dive for balls, so then they let me kick instead of being the goalkeeper. But I was impressed with all of the community members that volunteered their time. Some of them didn't even have kids playing soccer, but they just felt that strongly about their community. I know Angie Lopez, who's one of the mentors on our youth council, coaches 2 teams, is the mentor of our Galt City Council Youth Committee, and I believe I remember she doesn't have any kids playing right now. So I was really impressed with that. The other thing, coming down the highway at the Tractor Supply, there was a really nice project. There was Project Love, which they have this huge trailer that if you're homeless or in need, you can take a shower. They had different qualified barbers and hairstylists there giving free haircuts to the kids getting ready for school. They had clothes hanging up where they could just like shop for back to school clothes. There was school supplies. And this was all coming from the community. It wasn't coming from the government, it was coming from the people. So I wanted to share that with all of us and let you know what a great community to live in, and I'm sure you know that anyway, but we had a good taste of that this past weekend. So unless somebody else has anything to add, we will adjourn this meeting at 20 minutes after 8. And thank you all for coming.
Here, here.
She didn't read off Calendar. She didn't have
Oh,
the
the
calendar.
calendar. Oh, well. It's online.
I gave you staff reports in the presentation, isn't that enough?
You did get the calendar. Yeah.
Oh, well. I know, we made you work too hard.